Good morning with a quick update on the pre-market and news around China tech, around NIO particular, as well as Tesla because of the lockdowns in Shanghai and news related to this, and also in general the markets. So as you can see, NIO is down 10% in the pre-market, Tesla as well almost 5%, both because of the news of course that Shanghai is still in lockdown. NIO had to suspend production, as you already know, and this is going through the entire supply chain. Also XPeng down 9%, Li Auto down 6%. All of these car makers expect lower deliveries because of those supply chains disrupted, as well as the lockdowns and those impacts. But more on that later. What is also of course not good for growth world right now is that the 10-year is still spiking now at more than 2.7%. And VIX is also up, possibly also because of the uncertainties created around, well, an ongoing war situation as well as the lockdowns in China. This also leads to crypto selling off, Bitcoin near 41k, Ethereum near $3,000, and please excuse my messy charting here. But there are also some positive surprises in the world of China tech. For example, NetEase is up almost 8%, Bilibili up more than 8%, Huya up, and Douyi also up. And this is on the confirmed news by China Securities Journal that China did approve the first batch of gaming licenses again after almost 9 months of a suspension. So this is similar to back in the days when Tencent wasn't able to get new games released. So that is an easing factor here in the Chinese tech world. But coming back to our Tesla and NIO, we had a statement by the secretary Cui, who expects that the COVID-19 lockdown in Shanghai will cast a 20% loss on the automotive industry due to supply chain disruptions, but maintains the full-year EV sales guidance of 5.5 million vehicles. So possibly because there is so much demand for EVs, they're not cutting the forecast. Instead, they're cutting the forecast on fuel vehicles. And this is also reflected in Tesla made in China delivery times per models that are going up. You can see that by the end of March, it seems there was an average of 16 to 20 weeks waiting time if you have ordered one. So it seems like the demand is very, very strong. Tesla just provided their March sales. They're pretty decent, I would say, in context that we have those ongoing COVID restrictions. Remember, the factory was already in lockdown by the end of March. And so the question, of course, is when will this end? And today we have the first live images here from people walking around in Shanghai again. There is a new rule implemented that, well, if the area didn't have cases for 14 days, people are allowed to leave the complex. So it looks like there is a little bit of an easing here happening. This was also reported by more than one person. And also the government is aware of the situation on the economic impacts and says that because there is so much downward pressure on the economy, they should strengthen implementation of macro policies to stabilize the economy. As previously discussed, it's more and more likely that we will see some sort of stimulus in China. We also see some regional resumption of production, for example, here in Jilin. By the way, this is also one of the areas where NIO was impacted, but this one is about FAW, a state-owned enterprise that's also working with Volkswagen, which has now resumed work. And so we see that this is more or less a very dynamic situation, and we will have some easing in some parts and maybe some bad surprises or more restrictive actions in other parts of China at some point. And so in general, I think we can expect more and more news like this, like the NDRC, Economic and Trade Department, says is actively cooperating in order to find a more relaxing environment for the resumption of logistics operations. So currently the main issue also with the logistics and with that also the production side is that usually the lorry drivers cannot enter the cities, or they don't even want to, because otherwise they need to quarantine if they go out again. And so the overall situation right now seems to be more dynamic and chaotic in some ways, and of course affecting particularly NIO now with the suspension. However, we also need to see that they have been producing till the end of March with the sort of supply which they still had at hand, and then you'll see now that there is easing in some parts. And so this whole situation is not entirely new, although of course now more severe than before, but on a very long-term perspective, of course, this is just a temporary issue but for now certainly will affect deliveries in this month and maybe going forward a little bit. So yeah, that's the situation right now. Unfortunately, I cannot cover more than this for today because I will be on the run later on, but I hope you enjoyed it and see you in the next one.